The alarm clock rings at 7 o'clock a.m. and a hand immediately slams down to silence it. Reiko sits up slowly, grabs her glasses from the nightstand, and looks blankly up at the ceiling. She's wearing only a revealing top that hangs loosely from her shoulders, a lace of her underwear barely covered. She turns on the small TV in the corner, letting the low chatter of a TV ad fill the silence. She walks over to the counter and slices a piece of watermelon for breakfast, eating it while standing. She picks up a cigarette and a lighter from the cluttered table, then steps out onto the veranda. Sitting back in a plastic chair, she lights a cigarette and stares ahead. Her underwear peeks through her oversized shirt, but she doesn't bother adjusting it. Her building looks old, and so do the neighboring ones near hers. After finishing her smoke, she places the leftover watermelon in the fridge. She heads to her bedroom and changes into a semi-formal, sexy-looking outfit. She grabs her keys, locks the door behind her, and makes her way through the chaotic alley. A few locals greet her. She acknowledges them with minimal expression, not stopping as she continues forward. Eventually, she reaches her final stop, a low-rise office building. At the front desk, her boss looks up and tells her she should clock in soon. She's cutting it close. Reiko nods and quickly picks up her card, stepping toward the scanner. Just then, a guy rushes past, Hajime. He snatches his card from the tray and clocks in ahead of her. His time is 8:59, while Reiko's time is 9:01 and her DTR now reads late. They spend the morning handling their routine tasks. Reiko walks over to his desk and hands over the listings for today. She keeps her tone composed, but she brings up the fact that she got marked late because he cut in line. Hajime tries to shrug it off, but his temper begins to rise from her complaints, so he offers to treat her to lunch to make up for it. Reiko returns to her desk. Her boss chats with her again. He says Second Kowloon isn't an ideal living space, but the population never goes down. Maybe people have no better option. Reiko doesn't respond. Her face tightens slightly. At lunch, Reiko suggests a Hawaiian cafe that recently opened nearby. She saw a flyer earlier in the week and wanted to try it, but Hajime interrupts, brushing off the idea. He says they should go to his usual spot instead, Tintin Eatery. They end up there and Reiko stares blankly at her plate. She doesn't look thrilled. Hajime notices. He pauses with his chopsticks halfway to his mouth and asks if something's wrong. Reiko admits she was hoping to try the Hawaiian place. Hajime shrugs and says Tintin's food is great, she'll see. Reiko doesn't respond. She's distracted, adjusting her glasses more than usual. Something's off about her vision. Hajime comments on it. He says her eyes must have gotten worse again. She doesn't say much. Then she pulls out eye drops, Habanuma Pharmaceutical. The moment Hajime sees it, his mood shifts. He raises his voice, saying he doesn't trust that brand anymore. Ever since the son of the owner took over, things have gone downhill. He mentions a sketchy beauty line with the same director and says it creeps him out. He advises her that if her eyes are bothering her, she should just massage some pressure points. He leans in and offers to do it for her, but Reiko pulls back, clearly uncomfortable. With a dry smirk, she says she'd rather not be lunked out by a gorilla. The insult stings. Hajime scowls, his jaw tightening. The tension is heavy between them until their food arrives, breaking the moment. They eat quietly for a while. Then Reiko speaks again. She brings up a room in Sejong Tower that's been vacant for half a year. Hajime explains why. Too much sun in the afternoon, no AC. The interior looks dated. He says if someone just painted it properly, it might look better. Reiko mentions how Hajime once fixed a door at another unit. He says everything in Kowloon is old, landlords are stingy. There's no point calling maintenance over small flaws, but he still wants tenants to feel comfortable. After the meal, they walk back. Reiko mentions the time and says maybe they could grab tea somewhere. Hajime cuts her off and says she should see an optometrist instead. Her glasses are clearly off. He says they'll get tea another time, then walks off. As he disappears down the alley, he stops to play with some kids who recognize him. Reiko doesn't follow. She heads to the nearest clinic and gets her eyes checked. Later that afternoon, she returned to the office without her glasses. Her vision suddenly sharp minus 20/20ths. The boss notices immediately and compliments her, saying she looks good without them. Then he turns to Hajime and asks what he thinks. Hajime glances at her and replies coolly, saying he prefers the glasses. Later that day, Reiko and Hajime are on the terrace, burning old wood and furniture. Smoke rises steadily as they toss scraps into the furnace. After throwing in a few more pieces, Hajime stretches his back and notices the triangular flying object hovering above them, the generic Terra. The sight prompts him to think that maybe you're going to be punished for burning things. Reiko wonders if he's against it. It's clear that he is. To him, using tax money to create a fake Earth feels pointless and frustrating. As the fire crackles, the two of them smoke in silence while gazing at the view below. Reiko begins to wonder how long that new place from earlier will last. New places in Kowloon don't usually last long. They open with enthusiasm and close quietly not long after. Hajime views it differently. For him, Kowloon is meant to be nostalgic. The flickering streetlights, the moldy alleys, and the noisy neighbors all form part of its identity. He even compares it to falling in love. Perhaps that is what makes people stay. In his mind, Kowloon should remain the way it is. That's why new places don't stay. They don't need them. The place is supposed to stay nostalgic. Reiko disagrees. She doesn't feel any nostalgia for the place itself. What she does feel, unexpectedly, is a sense of nostalgia in Hajime. The moment shifts after she says that, a subtle awkwardness settling in. She tries to clarify her words, but when she turns toward Hajime, he is already staring at her. Their eyes meet, and the air between them tightens. He notices her crow's feet and silently teases her with it. The next day, Reiko arrives at work wearing glasses again. Though her vision tested fine the day before, she isn't used to seeing her face without them, so she decides to wear fake ones. Hajime immediately teases her about hiding her crow's feet. As she turns to face him, she notices a streak of dirt on his shirt cuff. He explains that it's from his odd habit. Whenever he walks through Kowloon and sees numbers written on walls, he touches them. It's something he feels compelled to do, like an unspoken rule he's always followed. The day proceeds with their usual tasks. Hajime finishes early and checks on Reiko, who still has more to do. She tells him she'll stay longer, but after clocking out, he turns off the office lights without warning and insists that she come out with him for dinner. As they walk, Reiko realizes Hajime isn't heading toward his usual food spot. Instead, they reach a place called Sunset Avenue. Reiko didn't expect this from Hajime, but this, he seems to believe, is what makes Kowloon Kowloon. They explore several food stalls, trying different dishes and drinks. After a while, Reiko complains that she can't eat anymore. Hajime suggests one final stop, and they enter a place called the Goldfish Tea House. The bartender named Tao recognizes Hajime immediately, which makes Reiko think he's been here often. They order coffee, and along with it, the server brings out a slice of watermelon on the house. Reiko eats it quickly despite claiming earlier that she is full. She reasons that watermelon is mostly water, so hardly counts. Hajime laughingly reacts to this. As he smokes, Reiko stares at him and suddenly feels nostalgic again. She lights her own cigarette and tells him it's best to smoke after eating watermelon. This statement makes Hajime think. It reminds him of someone who used to say something similar. Hajime appreciates these kinds of quirks. They bring back memories and make him feel connected to something or someone. As they prepare to leave, Tao thanks them and casually assumes Reiko is Hajime's girlfriend. Reiko freezes, surprised by the comment, and tries to correct the assumption, but Hajime interrupts her and urges her to hurry up. Outside, she brings up the mistaken identity, but Hajime only laughs it off. She worries aloud that it might be awkward if he ever brings his real girlfriend there, but Hajime brushes off her concern. Reiko stops walking. When she turns around, the moon is full above her. The generic Terra floats beside it as well. Lost in thought, she doesn't hear Hajime calling out loud to her. He approaches and hands her a small plastic container. Inside is a goldfish. It's a souvenir for the night, something to keep in her apartment. Reiko accepts it and takes it home. Later at home, she places the goldfish in a small glass container. As she watches it swim in slow circles, her thoughts return to what Hajime said earlier. The next day, there is an announcement from the Kowloon Environmental Management Center. A photochemical smog warning has been issued, along with a heat and high humidity advisory. Citizens are strongly advised to avoid outdoor activities as much as possible. Meanwhile, Reiko is out painting a vacant room in Sejong Tower. Despite the advisory, she pushes through, determined to finish what she started. Her body is drenched in sweat, her clothes clinging to her skin. She has the fan turned on and has gone through multiple bottles of water, yet the heat is unbearable. One final wall remains unpainted. She looks at it and convinces herself to power through. Just a bit more and it will be done. But as she tries to go near it, her vision begins to blur. Her knees shake, and before she can brace herself, her body collapses. Just then, Hajime enters and catches her before she hits the ground. He steadies her in his arms and mutters that heroes always arrive late. He told her she should ask for help if she really wanted the job done. He offers her a can of tea and asks what got into her. Reiko tells him she only wanted the tenants to feel comfortable too. Hajime teases that she's starting to have an effect on him, then casually picks up the roller and begins painting the final wall himself. Reiko sits down in a corner, sipping the tea as she watches Hajime finish the work she started. Her eyes are tired, her face flushed, and sweat drips from her forehead. She lowers her head to her knees. She mutters to herself under her breath that she's in love with this man. The following day, Reiko walks around searching for the tea house they had visited recently, the one with the goldfish and coffee. She walks down alleys and retraces her steps but fails to find it. Confused, she gives up and returns to the office. Inside, the place is silent. No one is around. She checks the schedule and sees that the boss is out in a business meeting. As she scans the room, she notices a pair of feet sticking out from one corner. Curious, she walks closer and finds Hajime lying down, sleeping soundly. She tells him to get up, but he doesn't respond. She tries again, louder this time, but still no reaction. So she mimics their boss's voice to mess with him. That finally gets a reaction. Hajime opens his eyes just a bit, sees Reiko, and without warning, pulls her down beside him. Suddenly, Hajime starts kissing her. His arms wrap her, his lips press against hers. At first, Reiko stays still, stunned by the suddenness. Then his kiss deepens, pressure and heat. Reiko starts to resist. She struggles against his grip, trying to push him off. When Hajime's eyes fully open and he realizes what he's doing, he immediately pulls back and shoves her away. Standing up, he mutters that he got the wrong person before storming out. Reiko remains on the floor, stunned, her hands covered her mouth, trying to process what just happened. Later that day, they work as if nothing happened. Hajime breaks the silence first, asking Reiko what food she brought. He talks to her casually as though the kiss earlier meant nothing. Reiko feels foolish for being stuck on something that clearly didn't matter to him. When he left, she noticed papers falling from his desk, his usual mess. She bends down to pick them up and sees something in the open drawer, a photograph peeking through the edge. Curious, she stares at it. It's a picture of Hajime with someone. The other person's face isn't visible, but something about the photo feels familiar. Reiko suddenly remembers the kiss and the mention of Quirk, how she reminded him of someone else. Her fingers tremble, then she picks up the photo and her eyes widen with shock for what she sees. Shaken, she rushes to find answers. She heads straight to the Goldfish Tea House. Upon entering, Tao immediately greets her with a smile. She orders an iced coffee and, without thinking, pulls the photo from her bag. Tao sees it and grins, recognizing it immediately. He casually mentions how they all had fun that day. Reiko doesn't understand. She asks him if he knows more about it. Tao is surprised, as of course he took that picture when Hajime proposed. Reiko stares blankly at the photo, now certain of what she sees. It's Hajime, standing in this exact tea house, next to a woman who looks exactly like her, but she doesn't remember taking it at all. Their names are even written together above the words "Congratulations." Her mind spins. Now she is more curious about the woman Hajime thought he kissed. Walking home through a noisy alley in Kowloon, Reiko can't stop thinking about her recent conversation with Tao. Her thoughts are interrupted by a call from someone named Xiaowei. On the other end, a loud, unsettling noise blares through the line. Xiaowei complains that her neighbor's noise is unbearable. Curious and concerned, Reiko decides to look into it. She walks down the hallway and knocks on the apartment door next to Xiaowei's. When the door opens, a flood of stuffed toy-shaped balloons spills. A flustered woman struggles to step through them, clearly panicked, assuming the person knocking is someone expecting a delivery. She freezes when she realizes she doesn't recognize Reiko. After a brief moment, she invites Reiko inside and offers her a hot drink. The woman explains that she's working on a large order and needs to finish 50 balloon figures, hence the noise. But while she speaks, she notices that Reiko seems distant, not really hearing anything she says. Something is clearly bothering her. Reiko hesitates, uncertain whether to share her thoughts with a stranger. Still, she pulls out a small photo and hands it to the woman. It's a picture of Reiko and Hajime, but Reiko quietly admits that something feels wrong. She and Hajime never took that photo. In fact, they were never even in a relationship. The woman in the picture might look like her, but she is convinced it isn't her. What unsettles her more is that she has no memory of her past. She didn't notice it at first, but now she realizes there are no clear recollections, no history to ground her. She doesn't remember who she was before. The woman listens and then answers calmly. If Reiko believes that the woman in the photo isn't her, then perhaps she is right. She explains that she, too, lives without a past. Her body has undergone so many changes that she considers herself a completely different person. She has discarded her old identity, and with that, her memories. She chooses who she is now and who she refuses to be. Maybe, she tells Reiko, that's an answer worth holding on to. She offers Reiko a tart and they eat in quiet comfort. Back at the office, Hajime notices his drawer slightly open and sees that the photo is gone. He thinks back to when he first met Reiko in this very office. She was already there when he arrived, sitting at her desk as if she had always belonged. He remembers how she introduced him to Kowloon, to the lucky number 8, to elderly mahjong players, and to their favorite eatery, Tintin. She once told him about smoking after eating watermelon, something she claimed gave a unique sensation. He recalls a moment on the terrace, both of them leaning on the rail, smoking as the city bustled below. She told him Kowloon felt nostalgic, like falling in love. It was a place she fell in love with. Hajime, more cynical, believed the district would soon be demolished. But Reiko refused that idea. That moment, Hajime wonders how can someone love something they know will be gone one day. The next evening, Reiko meets the balloon girl again, whose name is Yame. They share a meal of Hong Kong chicken and drinks, laughing easily like old friends. Reiko seems lighter. Yame is glad, but Reiko reveals she is still curious about the mysterious photo. She suggests the most straightforward option, ask Hajime directly. But when she sees Reiko's face turn red, she understands. Reiko is in love with him. In her mind, Hajime's silence about the photo must mean he's hiding something. If he knew the truth, why hasn't he said anything? Yame proposes a theory. Maybe the woman in the photo really is Reiko, but she's suffering from amnesia. Hajime could be waiting, hoping her memories return. That would explain his silence. But if that's the case, Reiko is left wondering, who could she be in Hajime's eyes now? The next day, both Reiko and Hajime are busy at work. Hajime suggests they take a break and grab lunch. Reiko recommends a new place with good lemon chicken, but Hajime wants to return to their usual spot. That very moment, Riko suddenly speaks. She feels nostalgic around him. She wonders if he feels it too. Hajime does. She turns to face him, and he turns to meet her gaze. He leans in, and for a moment, the space between them tightens. But instead of saying something meaningful, he comments on her unpierced ears and how her crow's feet are starting to show. Then half-joking, he insists they eat boiled dumplings for beauty benefits, which Riko declines and turns back to her work. So Hajime leaves her there alone. After Hajime leaves, Riko finally exhales, tension slipping from her shoulders, though her face remains visibly annoyed. She picks up the photo and places it back in Hajime's drawer where it originally belonged. Just before closing it, she shoots one last glance at the image and snaps on it, frustration flickering across her face before she pushes the drawer shut. The following morning, a televised advertisement announces free medical checkups sponsored by Hebinuma General Medical Center, open to all residents of Kowloon for that day only. Riko decides to go with Yaomei. Both arrive at the clinic wearing simple white robes, each flipping through the catalog of services they receive at the entrance. Yaomei appears excited, especially about meeting Dr. Hebinuma, who seems to be a local favorite. As they settle into their place, a small girl walks over to them. Xiaowei, the same girl who once called Riko to complain about Yaomei's noise. Xiaowei and Riko have grown closer, mostly due to Xiaowei living in a building managed by Riko's company. So she introduces the two to each other, and the three of them proceed through the different tests, vision screening, height and weight measurements, and blood work. Their checklist eventually leads them to a final procedure, the barium swallow test. The name alone already sounds yucky. Just as they prepare for it, a clinic worker announces free cosmetic surgery consultations. Yaomei brightens immediately and changes course. Riko, meanwhile, notices a section in the catalog detailing anti-aging procedures. Her mind drifts back to Hajime's casual remarks about her crow's feet showing. With little hesitation, she signs up for the consultation, and Yaomei does the same as well. Later that day, Hajime stops by the Goldfish Tea House. He expects to find Tao behind the counter, but a new bartender greets him instead. The new employee doesn't know much. Tao quit unexpectedly and hasn't been seen since. That same day, Riko and Yaomei also visit the tea house, hoping to speak with Tao and perhaps learn more about the mysterious photo. But like Hajime, they leave disappointed. With Tao gone, the answers they are looking for will never be found. On her way home, Riko and Yaomei wander through an alley where a street vendor sells earrings of all shapes and styles. The glint of silver and pearl draws Reiko's attention. She recalls Hajime's offhand comment about her ears not being pierced, then remembers the girl in the photo, wearing pearl earrings. Noticing how interested Riko is in them, Yaomei picks out a pair that closely resembles those in the photo and hands them to her. She tries them on, checking herself in a small mirror. Yaomei watches quietly, studying her expression. The next day, Hajime attempts to track Tao online. Since he personally arranged Tao's housing, finding him should be straightforward. Yet every search leads to a dead end. System errors show up like never before. Riko arrives at the office soon after. Hajime notices immediately the same pearl earrings from the photo are now clipped to her ears. He walks closer, but before he can react further, Riko clarifies that they're just clip-on. His expression quickly changes from bright to matte, and he leaves without another word. After witnessing his abrupt departure, Riko heads straight to Yaomei's apartment. She arrives frustrated. She even drops the earrings to the floor, and her eyes are wet with tears as she reflects on how ridiculous she feels. She went to such lengths to attract Hajime's attention, only to be dismissed. Yaomei welcomes her inside and offers sweets, giving her space to breathe. Meanwhile, Hajime sits alone in a dark alley. Rain slowly pours from the sky. He stares ahead, unmoving, lost in thought. That night, Riko also remains restless on her bed. Her thoughts fracture to parallel versions of herself, each trying something new, reacting differently, altering details in pursuit of clarity. After a while, she rises. She gathers the earrings, the glasses, and the clothes she wore that day, carefully folds them, and places them in a box. She seals it, slides it on top of her cabinet, and leaves it hidden in the quiet dark. At work, Riko steps out to the veranda and lights up a piece of cigarette. Rain pours steadily from the sky, creating a soft rhythm against the concrete. A moment later, Hajime joins her, also holding a cigarette in hand. They stand side by side in silence, the sound of rainfall filling the space between them. Eventually, Hajime speaks, apologizing for his behavior the day before, admitting he acted out of frustration, which is childish. Riko accepts this, appearing calm at first, but then her tone shifts. She tells him bluntly that his actions were foolish. The honesty catches Hajime off guard. He had expected a quiet acceptance, not criticism. Riko, however, doesn't dwell on it. As a condition for accepting his apology, she declares that she gets to choose where they'll eat lunch. Hajime agrees, and she selects a place known for its lemon chicken. By evening, they return there for dinner. At the restaurant, Hajime tries the lemon chicken Riko recommends. She watches him closely, her expression unreadable, until he finally comments that it tastes good. Her face brightens dramatically with his words, but he still insists that the dumplings are better. After their meal, they step outside. The rain has stopped, but the pavement remains slick. As Reiko steps forward, she slips slightly, but Hajime quickly catches her by the hand. Their eyes meet. Though Reiko moves to let go, Hajime's grip remains firm for a moment longer than necessary, as if reluctant to release her. Eventually, he lets go and reminds her to be careful. They both look up at the sky, where the artificial glow of generic Terra beams brighter than usual. Beneath this light, the two of them share a quiet, romantic moment. Later, Reiko and Yaomei proceed with their scheduled consultation at the cosmetic clinic. Reiko sits in the waiting area, browsing through a catalog, trying to decide which anti-aging procedure she wants. Yaomei notices she has her regular makeup on for the procedure. Reiko seems unaware of why that matters, but Yaomei insists it would be impolite to meet Dr. Habinuma without at least some lipstick, so Reiko takes out one from her purse. Reiko hesitates for a moment. The color reminds her of the girl in the photo, but she applies it anyway. When it's Reiko's turn, she enters the consultation room where the doctor greets her. She tells him about her concern, specifically the crow's feet around her eyes. The doctor receives a file on his computer and pauses to read it. Then, as he examines her, he leans in, touching her face too much it almost feels weird. He remarks that it has a glow and warmth to it. His gaze lingers, and the intensity of his attention unsettles her. He begins to ask unrelated questions about her job, her marital status, her family, and even her household structure. Reiko answers honestly, but her answers only lead to more confusion. She can't recall anything from her past. Her memories are missing. The doctor notes her fragmented memory and smiles, as though he's reached a private conclusion. He informs her that, unusually, her wrinkles have no visible history. Unlike ordinary signs of aging that develop gradually, hers seem to have appeared all at once, as if they've always been there. The remark catches Reiko off guard. She stiffens, trying to comprehend what that could mean. If her wrinkles have no history and her memories are incomplete, then perhaps those memories never existed in the first place. The doctor then leans in closer, speaking softly. He tells her that what truly matters is that she exists in the present. The words confuse her, and her discomfort grows when she notices a subtle shift in the doctor's appearance. His features seem distorted, his tongue unnaturally long, his eyes taking on an abnormal form. Reiko freezes in place as his hand remains pressed against her cheek and her lips, removing her lipstick. Moments later, Reiko bursts through the consultation room door. She storms down the hallway, grabbing Yaomei's hand without a word and dragging her away from the clinic. Inside the consultation room, the doctor stands by the window, watching the two women leave. He mutters to himself, commenting that the lipstick Reiko wore didn't suit her at all. Then slowly he wipes the same shade of lipstick from his own mouth, laughing softly to himself. "It's too wonderful," he says. He might just lose his mind. Hajime recalls walking through Kowloon with Reiko. Earlier that day, they assisted an elderly resident in repairing furniture. As they made their way back through a narrow alley, a dense humidity clung to them. Without warning, Hajime dropped his tools and his knees faltered, causing him to fall to the ground. A sudden wave of dizziness overwhelmed him. Reiko observed him carefully, suspecting heat stroke, so without hesitation, she suggested they return to her nearby apartment so he could rest and rehydrate. Reaching her apartment, he hesitated. Entering a woman's private space felt intimate, perhaps too personal, but the oppressive heat left him little choice. He agreed and followed her inside. Her apartment was modest. Thin white curtains floated gently in the breeze that drifted through open windows. The air inside felt cooler, windier. Hajime moved to the sink, turned on the tap, and splashed cold water on his face. A crumpled tube of toothpaste lay nearby. Inside the refrigerator, he found a glass of water left uncovered, intentionally placed there by Reiko to allow the chlorine smell to dissipate before consumption. He drank it in a single, deliberate motion. He then sat on the edge of her bed, scanning the room. Everything was neat and orderly. There was no sign of plush toys. Peeking through the window, he saw Reiko smoking on the veranda, her gaze lost in the distance. As Hajime watched Reiko on the veranda, she suddenly spoke, breaking the silence. She asked about his experience in Kowloon so far. Hajime responded, sharing how wonderful it had been, though he admitted that he often felt a sense of nostalgia. He recalled something she had told him before. Nostalgia is like being in love. Hajime, curious, wondered why that comparison resonated with her. Reiko explained. She told him that nostalgia was a strange feeling. Though she had never truly been to Kowloon before, it felt as though she had known the place her entire life. That's the essence of nostalgia. It's the sensation of familiarity with something you've never experienced. It's like wanting to lock that feeling deep within your heart. In that way, it's much like love. Now back in the present, the clock reads 7:45. Reiko stands by the mirror, applying soft pink lipstick as she prepares to leave for work. At the office, she immediately immerses herself in her tasks. Then she hears a familiar voice. She turns, expecting to see Hajime, but she is shocked to see who is also there, Miyuki, the unsettling doctor from Habinuma Clinic. Their last encounter had left her uneasy. Their boss greets Miyuki with enthusiasm, but Reiko and Hajime exchange wary glances. The clinic has officially become a client, and Miyuki is now looking to establish a second location in Kowloon. They all gather together for tea, discussing Miyuki's plan to open another clinic in Kowloon. They set out to find a good location, but Hajime can't stop tapping his feet, his unease palpable. While Reiko searches for potential spots, Hajime notices how Miyuki keeps staring at her, making unnecessary remarks that only fuel his frustration. Unable to contain it any longer, Hajime leans in closer to Miyuki, his gaze intense, and confronts him. But Miyuki remains unfazed, continuing with his comments. As Hajime's irritation grows, he throws out a threat, but Miyuki retaliates by splashing sanitizer into Hajime's eyes. With this, Hajime screams in pain from the stinging burn. Miyuki, unfazed by the incident, decides to leave. He stands, bidding farewell, but not before grabbing Reiko's arm and pressing a kiss to her lips. His snake-like tongue slides into her mouth, and he whispers that she should choose him before pulling away. Hajime erupts in anger, shouting everything that comes to his mind. Miyuki and his assistant leave the scene, the assistant shocked by the kiss, given Miyuki's known germophobia. But, as Miyuki's behavior suggests, a snake swallows whatever it desires. Then Miyuki receives a call from someone named Yulong. Back at the office, Reiko remains frozen, stunned by what just occurred. Their boss steps in, trying to stop Hajime from pursuing Miyuki as Hajime's anger reaches a boiling point. After work, Hajime and Reiko stop by a Japanese store. Reiko spots a fish tank on display and instantly remembers she needs a larger one for her goldfish. But it's too heavy for her to carry, so Hajime offers to drop by her apartment so she can buy it. When they arrive at her apartment, it feels oddly familiar, as if Hajime has been there before. Reiko does the same things she did when he first entered, filling the tank with water, while Hajime notices her toothpaste still lying around the sink in the same spot. The only difference is that there's no glass of tap water in the fridge like she used to keep. So instead, Hajime grabs a watermelon from the fridge. The room remains unchanged just as it was when he first visited, except for a plushie now displayed in one corner. Hajime steps out onto the veranda to smoke while his thoughts drift to the time Reiko had smoked there when he first entered. Reiko brings up the topic of the room in Seijoing Tower, mentioning that she's found a tenant. Hajime approaches her while she is still busy with the fish tank and proceeds to ask the name of her fish. Without hesitation, the name Success comes to her mind. Hajime thinks it's a terrible name, but it's her fish after all. He walks out, glancing back one last time before leaving. Reiko is left there quietly, wishing he would visit again soon. The next day, a single stem of sunflower sits in a clear glass vase on Hajime's desk when he arrives. He glances at Reiko, who tells him it's her way of thanking him for carrying the fish tank yesterday. Though skeptical, Hajime asks when to change its water. He doesn't want the sunflower dying on him. Suddenly, a child's voice echoes through the office. It's Xiaowei visiting Reiko as promised. Though her issue with the noisy neighbor has been resolved, she now needs a bigger space to store all her clothes. She wants Reiko's help with apartment viewings. Xiaowei notices the sunflower on Hajime's desk. She remarks that in flower language, a sunflower means, "I only have eyes for you." Reiko overhears and stiffens at this. She never really knew that was the meaning of it. In a slight panic, she grabs Xiaowei and pulls her out of the room before anything else can be said. They arrive at the 7th apartment they viewed, but Xiaowei still doesn't connect with any of them. Reiko finds all of them acceptable, but Xiaowei remains unimpressed. Reiko proposes finding a place in another location, but moving out of Kowloon isn't an option for her. She only works part-time, so she technically has more choices, but she can't bring herself to leave Kowloon. Suddenly, Riko's phone rings. It's Hajime. He says he's found a good place on Namkang Street and tells them to come see it. Upon arriving, Reiko mentions that she had already visited that property but dismissed it due to its strange layout. She didn't even include it on Xiaowei's list. But once Xiaowei steps inside, she's instantly taken with it. Despite its small size, the apartment has plenty of storage and she falls in love with it. The rooftop adds to her excitement. She decides to take it on the spot. Reiko feels slightly defeated, but Hajime tells her that if a place fits the tenant, even an odd floor plan becomes the right one. While Xiaowei explores the rooftop, Reiko and Hajime look up at the sky, admiring the weather. Xiaowei calls them over to see something. The view below the rooftop is dotted with blooming sunflowers. It's as if someone scattered seeds there long ago, and now a cluster has started to grow. While looking at the site below, Reiko recalls the meaning of the sunflower in flower language. "I only have eyes for you." The thought lingers. She wanders in a field of gazes, whose eyes Hajime is hoping to find. The next day, Reiko buys watermelon juice at a store. A coin slips from her purse and rolls away. As she's about to retrieve it, a strange man wearing a mask picks it up and plays with it in his hands before giving it back to her. What makes him more strange is that he says nothing. He only bows in response to her thanks and walks away in silence. That same night, news spreads all over the town. It's a newspaper article that reveals Miyuki is not the legitimate child of the company president. Is the son of a mistress who took over the company because the rightful heir and his mother died in a car accident years ago. Even the housekeepers can't stop talking about it. Meanwhile, Miyuki sits on a bed, sharing it with the masked man from earlier. Though the article is mentioned, Miyuki doesn't seem to care. The masked man seems to know a lot of information as he mentions how Reiko is so identical to another person and even brings up Tao, who quit his job 2 weeks ago. Miyuki stands as well, walking over to the window to gaze at the view. He dials a number. When the call connects, he asks for updates. He's investigating Reiko's identity. There's nothing yet, but he trusts the man on the other end. He slips off his robe, revealing a body marked by a large, winding snake tattoo that coils across his skin. The next day, Hajime walks through the streets of Kowloon with a photo of Tao in hand, asking people around who might have worked with him if they've ever seen the man. Someone suggests he try visiting Tao directly or ask his neighbors. After all, he's a real estate agent. But every attempt leads nowhere. When he tries to walk and go to Tao's apartment, the path folds into a dead end. The roads going there are gone, erased as if they never existed. It's as if Kowloon is doing something strange to trick him. Elsewhere, Reiko smokes alone on the veranda, watching the view with her cigarette in hand. Suddenly, the masked man from yesterday appears beside her once again. She turns toward him, startled not by his presence but by what follows. He removes his mask and she recognizes him as the bartender in the Goldfish Tea House, Tao. His hair is loose, no bun like before, but everything else matches: his face, his eyes, his presence. He seems surprised she knows him, but Reiko has always felt he knew her. Even though they met only twice, she senses a long-standing connection. He confirms it, acknowledging her bond with Hajime too. But then he tells her something bizarre. He knows that she is not the Reiko he once knew. The real Reiko, he says, no longer exists in this world. She listens in silence as he explains. Everything about her is identical to the woman in the photograph, even the beauty mark near her eye. But it's not her at all. She is someone else in Reiko's body, unaware, living a life not her own. He pities her, then tells her to relay a message to Hajime that he will visit him soon, before leaving her there confused by his words. Reiko walks back to the office, Tao's words echoing in her mind. If she is not the woman in the photo, then this life, this past, all belong to someone else. Inside, Hajime sits slumped at his desk, his head resting in his arms. On his table, the sunflower she once gave him stands wilted in a dry vase. She picks it up, intending to throw it away. Before she can leave, Hajime mutters he doesn't like her. But she shrugs it off, saying he already knows that, then she proceeds to drop the dead flower into the trash. That night, Reiko sits awake on her bed, replaying Tao's words. If everything she is now isn't truly hers, then Hajime's affection and their shared history, none of it really belongs to her. It all belongs to the original Reiko. The next day, they work in quiet routine. In the afternoon, they begin burning old papers. Reiko keeps spilling the trash onto the floor, missing the furnace. Hajime comments on her worsening vision, suggesting she wear her glasses again, but she refuses. Later, she brings up the woman, the real Reiko, and asks if she is the same person Hajime remembers. A sudden gust of wind lashes across her face. Hajime answers indirectly, but the meaning is clear. She doesn't even know herself. It's true. She has no memory of how long she's lived in Kowloon, when she started working, or even how she speaks. Everything feels borrowed, as if they all belong to someone else. Yet there are still some things that truly belong to her. Her goldfish, the fondness for lemon chicken, and the way she loves Hajime. But Hajime denies it. To him, her love is just part of the illusion, an echo of the life she is living. Reiko knows otherwise. Everything she feels is real. She explains with tears in her eyes how deeply she aches for his touch and how she longs for his acknowledgement. Hajime stares, speechless. She tries to express the depth of that ache, but the words catch in her throat. Her chest tightens, her breath shortens, and a world spins. Then, overcome by it all, she collapses to the ground. The scene opens to a flashback of Hajime and the real Reiko drinking together at their regular spot in Kowloon. They are celebrating Hajime's welcome party with shelled shrimps and some alcohol. Over drinks, Hajime brings up the topic of Kowloon being demolished soon. However, this isn't the first time it has happened. Back in 1944, the original Kowloon had already been torn down. What stands now is the second Kowloon walled city, recreated illegally, most likely because the people long to relive the nostalgia and chaotic comfort that the real Kowloon once offered. After finishing their meal, they head home. Reiko, already quite drunk, walks in zigzags while Hajime does his best to assist her. Despite her condition, she insists on going for more drinks, but Hajime gently refuses. Then suddenly, the strap of Reiko's bra slips down her shoulder, making Hajime visibly uneasy. He quickly averts his gaze, determined not to act inappropriately, but Reiko, without hesitation, grabs him by the tie and pulls him into a deep, passionate kiss. Hajime freezes, his face turning a bright red from a mixture of shock, shame, and bliss. Still, after hesitating, he gently holds Reiko by the shoulders and presses another kiss onto her lips, this time deeper and fully consensual. Back in the present, Reiko wakes up in an unfamiliar place. She panics for a moment before realizing she's in Hajime's apartment. She finds herself resting in Hajume's bed while Hajime sleeps in a chair beside it. Hajime stirs awake, recalling how Reiko collapsed on the rooftop yesterday. Since then, she had been sleeping soundly like a log. As Reiko slowly sits up, Hajime brings up the question she asked before fainting, the one about the real Reiko. Her eyes widen when he mentions it, sensing he is about to reveal something important. But before he can say a word, a quiet voice inside her warns her to stop him, and she refuses to hear it. Hajime rises from his seat, preparing to leave for work. He advises Reiko to head home and get some proper rest, but she quickly realizes she has lost her keys. To her surprise, Hajime casually hands her a spare key to her apartment. Reiko is puzzled. Why does Hajime have a copy of her key? However, she quickly pushes the thought aside. She no longer wants to dig into the real Reiko's past. Accepting the key without further questions, she listens as Hajime reminds her to lock the door after she leaves. Meanwhile, Miyuki and Tao stroll through the winding streets of Kowloon. Both are dressed unusually, wearing different hairstyles, odd accessories, and unfamiliar clothes to stay unrecognizable among the crowd. Tao warns Miyuki not to wander around Kowloon alone. He might accidentally encounter the fake Tao and find himself drawn to him. Miyuki smirks, wondering aloud if the fake Tao would also find him attractive. After all, the fake Reiko has fallen for Hajime. They head to the Goldfish Tea House where Tao once worked. Since they can't check inside, they decide to investigate the back door. To Tao's surprise, the shelter he built for stray cats is gone, completely erased, as if the Kowloon he once knew no longer exists. It feels strange and unsettling. While looking around, Tao also picks up an eye drop bottle from Hebenham Pharmaceutical. Although the product was released 3 years ago, it is being sold in Kowloon as if it were brand new. Miyuki, however, isn't surprised. He points out that Kowloon often faces logistical oddities, so selling old products as new ones isn't anything unusual here. Still, Tao feels uneasy. Everything seems shabbier. He then brings up another detail. Reiko's mole under her eye looks exactly like the real Reiko's. This catches Miyuki's full attention. His eyes widen at the revelation. Moles and unique beauty marks typically aren't replicated when creating a clone, meaning there could be something deeper at play. Miyuki begins to think about how eerily similar she is. The same face, the same voice, even the same warmth. She even loves Hajime the way the real Reiko did. Despite having no memory of that love, she still loves him instinctively. Reiko sits in her room laughing heartily with Yaomei while eating lemon chicken. They enjoy each other's company. Yaomei talks about how she recommended Xiaohei for a new job as a seamstress, a role that suits her perfectly. Amid the lighthearted conversation, Yaomei suddenly comments on how Reiko seems to be glowing lately. Instead of answering directly, Reiko reveals something she recently learned. She isn't the Reiko in the old photograph. The real Reiko had already died. Upon hearing this, Yaomei panics, realizing they could be hanging out in a dead person's room. Reiko also mentions how Hajime seems to know the full story about the real Reiko, but she has chosen not to ask him. A voice inside her warned her not to dig too deep. She fears that if she learns the truth, she herself might disappear. Instead, Reiko decides she will simply live as herself. She doesn't need the past to define who she is now. She trusts her own choices and is determined to take ownership of her life, free from the shadows of her unknown past. Yaomei smiles at Reiko's response, happy to hear her confidence, but she still finds it strange, being identical to someone else and having no memories of a past life. Reiko then shares what Miyuki once told her at the hospital. Her wrinkles looked natural, as if they had always been there. In her room felt like it had existed forever. She doesn't remember moving in, but she remembers her belongings. It's as if she was simply placed there to continue living the real Reiko's life like a clone. That's when Yaomei reveals something she found during her internet research. She came across a deleted post mentioning a secret research in connection with the Gene Terra project, which allegedly aimed to create clones. Although the post was erased, Yaomei can't help but wonder if there's truth to it, especially given everything happening to Reiko now. The project is called Zirconian, named after the gemstone zirconia, a fake diamond. Hearing this, Yaomei shows Reiko the zirconia earrings she's wearing. Riko's heart sinks. If she was truly created to be a fake, she longs to be something real. Yaomei then stands up and tells Reiko to turn off the lights. In the dark, she holds up her zirconia earring. It gleams brightly, almost like a real diamond. Though it isn't genuine, Yaomei says she treasures it deeply. She shares her own story, how, after countless plastic surgeries, some might see her as fake too. But just like zirconia, even something not considered real can shine beautifully. Reiko listens closely, feeling comforted. Even if some people only see fakes as fakes, there are always those who recognize and cherish the light they carry. The next day, Reiko returns to work and is greeted by Hajime, who shows up late once again. At lunch, Hajime walks through a secluded alley when he hears Reiko and Yaomei's voices approaching. Instinctively, he hides without knowing why. As he listens, he hears them planning a small get-together with Yaomei suggesting that Reiko invite Hajime as well. The topic then shifts. Yaomei encourages Reiko to move to a new room, throw away all her old belongings and start fresh, living as her true self, not just as a replacement for the real Reiko. But Reiko refuses. She wants to keep the things not for Hajume's sake, but for the real Reiko's. Even though the original Reiko no longer exists, her belongings keep a part of her alive. If they were thrown away, it would feel like erasing her completely from the world. Hajime stands on the rooftop, smoking a cigarette as he gazes at the view when Reiko arrives. She approaches him and invites him to Xiaohei's welcome party. However, Hajime declines, suggesting that Reiko, Yomei, and Xiaohei enjoy themselves without him. Despite turning down the invitation, Hajime casually pulls out a handful of cash from his pocket and offers it as his contribution to the party. Reiko stares at the amount in disbelief, amazed at how much she's willing to spend. Still, she feels happy knowing they can splurge and celebrate properly, thanks to Hajime's unexpected donation. Remembering her shift, Reiko leaves in a rush. Hajime follows after a while, waiting for the right moment. Reiko pauses by the door, waiting for Hajime to knock before she leaves completely. Hajime approaches, and for a moment, they are face to face with only the door separating them. As he raises his hand to knock, he hesitates. Memories of the real Reiko haunt him. He imagines her still on the rooftop, smoking her cigarette while gazing at the distant view. That afternoon, Yomei continues working but can't brush off Reiko's words. Reiko still refuses to move or throw away the real Reiko's belongings. To Yomei, it feels wrong, like Reiko is still trying to live someone else's life instead of building her own. As evening falls, they gather on Xiaohei's rooftop to celebrate her housewarming party. Although Hajime had initially declined their invitation, he still shows up, claiming that Xiaohei forced him to come. The atmosphere is lively as they start eating, and Yomei prepares a plate for Hajime, an unbalanced mix of 1/3 chicken and 2/3 lemon, drawing laughter from the group. Returning to their discussion about finding a new place, Yomei suggests a location where Reiko could move. However, Reiko remains firm about staying in her current apartment. Yomei insists, trying to convince her otherwise, but Reiko doesn't budge. Hoping for backup, Yomei turns to Hajime for his opinion. Hajime simply says that if Reiko wants to move out, then she should. Hearing this, Reiko insists she doesn't hate that place at all, so she will not move out. At the end of the party, Xiaohei and Yaomei are tasked with fixing the chairs and tables, while Reiko is accompanied by Hajime to throw out the trash. After burning the garbage in the furnace, they decide to take a cigarette break on the rooftop. They gaze at the night view, the full moon glowing brightly above them. In the distance, a billboard for Hebinuma Pharmaceutical catches their attention. Reiko brings up the topic of Miyuki, mentioning the second clinic he wanted to build in Kowloon. After their meeting at the office, Miyuki never returned. As Reiko talks, Hajime remembers the kiss Miyuki once stole from her, and a dark emotion stirs inside him. Reiko's heart pounds under the moonlight. She wonders if he is about to kiss her. However, Hajime simply exhales a cloud of cigarette smoke between them. Pulling back slightly, he remarks coolly that she leaves herself too open, leaving Reiko both annoyed and flustered. Hajime turns to face the moon. Beneath it, the generic Terra also gleams brightly. He wonders aloud what kind of light reflects to shine so brilliantly. Reiko answers that it's the high hopes people place on generic Terra that make it shine. After they finish, Hajime heads home, wandering through the dim alleyways with his head bowed and softly humming a tune. His aura seems darker than before. As he walks, he recalls Reiko's words about high hopes and lets out a dry, bitter laugh that quickly fades. Something is definitely wrong with Kowloon. The next day, Hajime plays mahjong with the elders in Kowloon when Reiko suddenly appears behind him. The elders greet her warmly, but Hajime is surprised. Reiko usually has lunch with Yaomei. However, since Yaomei is off today, Reiko decides to join him for dumplings instead. As they chat, Reiko notices Mr. Chan's absence. Mr. Chan is actually at Hebinuma Medical Center that day. He is summoned by Miyuki for a checkup, though he insisted he is fine. During their consultation, Miyuki receives a phone call about bringing someone to Kowloon. Miyuki quickly tells the person on the phone to escort the newcomer back to his home. As Miyuki glances back at Mr. Chan, he is taken aback to find the chair now empty. He proceeds to tell Tao. The situation continues to unfold with unexpected twists. That afternoon, Reiko and Hajime work as usual, focused on their tasks. Meanwhile, Miyuki speaks with Tao, expressing his satisfaction that the second version of himself no longer exists. This news brings him great happiness. They continue their conversation, discussing matters like finding Mr. Chan and contacting a realty in Japan about Hajime, which brings Tao's attention back to him. Finally, Miyuki asks Tao about the real Reiko's cause of death, shifting the conversation to darker topics. After work, Hajime and Reiko close up the office and walk home together. Reiko can't shake off the concern about Mr. Chan's absence earlier. He's an elderly man living alone, which worries her. Hajime jokes about how easily people die, laughing about it, but his words unsettle Reiko. On the other hand, Tao refuses to answer Miyuki's question directly, claiming that both he and Hajime always thought it was some kind of mistake. Hajime asks Reiko how much she knows, and she tells him that the only thing she is certain of is that the real Reiko no longer exists. It's what Tao had told her when they met once. Hajime is shocked to hear about Tao, but he simply laughs it off. Meanwhile, Miyuki begins to understand why Tao seems to harbor such disdain for the fake Reiko and why he is so protective of Hajime. Hajime, laughing hysterically in front of Reiko, suddenly stops. After a moment of silence, he spills the truth. He is the one who killed the real Reiko.